Okay, wonderful. Hello, everybody. Am I
Hello.
coming through okay? Can you hear me? Yes, wonderful. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. All right. This is Tala Time, which is something that we do every week in Ever Uvi in our community. We have quite a few people who, honestly, most people here at this point in time, who I don't recognize. I don't know any of you. So hello. Nice to virtually meet you. Um, Super cool. Yeah, but this is what we do every week. So I thought what we'd do. So we have the lovely Stacey here, and I'll get into introducing her in a moment and getting into this super important conversation. Um, because we've got a lot of new folks, I'll introduce myself really quickly and just kind of give a bit of context as to where we are today, what this is and what this is about. So my name is Clarinda Tivoli. I've got my roots are in Fiji and in Samoa. I live in Hawaii now. I was born in Tamaki Makaurau in Aotearoa. So very much a child of the Moana. And I am a decolonizing business educator. That's what I do. And that's very much the work that we do here in the Uvi community. So we have an online community. Um, yeah, and this is Teletime. So this is something that we do every week. We actually typically do it on a Thursday. Sometimes schedules change a little bit, like it is today. We do Teletime every week. We do Solevaka every week as well, which is our co-working sessions. We have our little online community. You can get you can get into that and be a part of that every week and every month with our monthly themes that we have that are in line with the traditional Fijian calendar. So we kind of work with the seasons a little bit, get inspired with what's going on environmentally, and let that kind of guide where we put our attention with our businesses and with the work that we are doing ongoing. We acknowledge in the Ever community that this is, the work of decolonization and liberation work is like it's a practice. Yeah, it's a practice. It's not an end goal. It's a something we continue to practice. And so that's what the community framework and the educational programming is centered around. It's that we keep returning, we keep coming back. There's always work to do, and we plug in when we can. Um, yeah, we have coursework that's posted every week. We've got all kinds of stuff, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because we have Stacey with us today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if you are interested to learn more about that, I'm going to post in, put in the chat a couple of links. That's the Patreon where you can become a part of the community, as well as our prospectus for this year. So you can learn a little bit about the theme and how we work in our community with our decolonizing business educational programming. Yeah, I just want to, do this housekeeping, get all this out of the way so we can just dive deep. Yeah. Um, I think that's it on my end of things. Yeah. So we have Stacey here. Stacey, we've been wanting to do this for a while, and it just,
Yeah.
life has been lifing and um
Yeah.
as it has, which is kind of the whole topic for today, isn't it? Life is
Yeah.
lifing. What do we do about
Life is
that?
lifing all around us.
Yes, yeah. So thank you so much for joining. So Stacey, for everybody who isn't familiar with her and her work, she's a super awesome Indigenous mama and a copywriter and a nurse and just like doing all the
All the
things.
things. Yes. We got connected, and I got to do a little plug for your Storyteller Accelerator series, and you have not asked me
Oh,
to do this.
thank you.
But
Oh,
that's how I got connected to Clarinda, and I am deeply, deeply grateful for this space to talk to you today, and also for that because and we can get into this in a minute, like part
Mm,
of doing some of this work was putting the feelers out there to find the people who seemed elusive because of the systems that we live in and
mhm,
how those systems are designed to make us feel individualistic and
mm,
siloed and
mm,
folks of the global majority and indigenous folks know that that is not true. There are people out there
mhm,
um, that way. So if I had not found storytellers, I think I would have been feeling, I might have even given up copywriting, to be truthful, because I was kind of feeling that the groups that are
mm, mhm.
teaching that and in the marketing sphere um, are designed to do that in a certain way, and
Yeah,
was
yeah,
not
yeah.
seeing a lot of people who look like me, who act like me, who talk like me. And
Mm.
so I'm deeply grateful for that. So that's how we are connected.
I appreciate you saying that so much. I want to like dive in already because I'm like it frustrates me. I'm like this is why are people not like this? Because this is marketing 101. How you be relevant, be relevant. That's the whole thing. That's how we have great copy. That's how we get juicy. That's how we get to the like things that are at the top of the like surface of the skin. We address that first. And if the
Mm-hmm.
world is on fire,
Yes.
then we're talking about that. That's
Oh,
what
yes.
we're talking about.
Hmm. And
Ah,
sometimes,
okay.
in circles, we're
Mm.
talking about that, and people are like, oh, no, no, we're not talking about that. And a lot
Right,
of us are like,
right.
oh, yes, we are. We've been talking about that.
Yeah, yeah,
Our
yeah,
our
yeah,
people
yeah.
have been talking about that. We're going to keep talking about it. And
Hmm.
it does in some spheres close doors, but I am absolutely
Yeah,
convinced
sure.
that we are living in and through a time where we're needing that, and it's time. It's time to
Mm.
bring that out. So for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, all right. So I see we are warm and ready to like dive
Yeah.
in, but I do want to make sure that if people would like to reach out to Stacey for any copywriting work or just want to chat and connect,
Yes.
would you like to pop in the chat how
Yeah.
people can get in
We'll
touch, or
pop in the
can I
chat.
speak
The
to them?
best way to do it is the Mosen Copywriting Company. We're online, and I'll pop that in the chat. And then also on IG. And I do revision work. Yes, thanks. That's a great question. I love to do that. It depends on what type of copy it is, but I mean, let's chat because I love to do that. And I'll talk a little bit maybe at the end about how my copywriting work is evolving. Because it needs to. And so I think that I'm moving more toward a equitable sliding scale for everybody, and that I'm no longer taking high paying clients because of the ways that those folks are coming to me right now. Does that mean I don't want to make money? Absolutely not. But it does mean
Mhm.
that my effort and my work with copywriting and copy is towards the movement of liberation, and so that's what we're doing. And that's going to take working with all different kinds of people with all different abilities and means. So yes, would love to look at
Mm.
sales page and things like that. So thanks for asking that question. um, so should I introduce myself a little bit? Should we start there?
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, like
Okay.
where are you from? What's land to
Yeah.
you? Yeah, yeah. Let's
So
connect right into that a little
I
bit.
my name is Stacey Pickering-Mosen. I was born in Portland, Maine, which is Wabanaki and the traditional ancestral lands and present day lands of the Wabanaki peoples. Um, I now live in Rockland, which is the unceded land of the Passamaquoddy and Penobscot peoples, who are currently um, trying to regain their sovereignty and rights as a tribal land, and also a tribe that receives those benefits from the government that they are not currently getting. So um, I am the firstborn queer daughter of Afro Indigenous Colombiana who emigrated here in the 50s, and also the descendant of a dad who had Scottish and British ancestry. And, down that line, I think, I'm definitely descended from folks who have been on both sides, disruptors, and folks who have been seeking liberation. And I think as a mixed Indigenous person, it's put me in a lot of different communities. One, like within my household as a first generation American on my mother's side, but also as someone who grew up in an upper middle class suburban neighborhood where my culture and my personhood for a whole side of my family was ignored because assimilation and also like how people define things. So it's my whole life has been contextual. If the folks in the room decide that I am, you know, presenting and passing, then I pass. And if folks decide that I'm not, then I don't. And so it's been really interesting in the copywriting world, in my work as a nurse, in my work and in my job as a mom, where I fall depending on the people in the room. And it's also been the chameleon gift. It's also been kind of one of those things that have been useful because I get a lot of information sitting in rooms where people think they are safe to talk about things that they might not say otherwise. And so, even though that's been deeply painful, sometimes I've learned things about the places I've been or the people that I thought were friends or relations. I've also gotten really clear really quickly about those things. So that's I kind of came to copywriting because I've always been a storyteller, and that is part of my lineage of bone throwers and brujas. And yeah, I think no matter which side that was on, I've been doing that. And I'm one of those people who has always, I mean, I'm classically trained as a nurse, but I have kind of moved into the sphere of believing that I don't have to only practice one thing. I love working in art. I love working in writing, and so that's kind of how I came to be in copywriting. And the way I like to write and to copyright with folks is very different than how they classically train you, as I'm sure you're aware of. Like being in the marketing world, it's very different because that is largely founded on capitalism and colonialism, and so those ideas run right through it. So
Thank you for sharing yourself with us, Stacey. So I want to know more about that. Like, what was that process like for you in finding your own voice in copy, separate from what you were
yeah,
classically being trained in?
yeah, I
It was
think
like,
so for folks, you know, that are new to that kind of word, everything you see, you know, in print media, you know, scripts, commercials, everything is copy. Advertisements, mailers you get in the mail, that's all copy. And so one thing that I found was interesting about that real basic level was how it connected people. You know, we've all had those times where we've seen something we're like, oh my gosh, like, or in a commercial that made us cry or something like that, and we were connected immediately. And so I've always been kind of curious about that as far as a medium goes. But I think that, you know, as I was mentioning how it's trained, the art of selling in a capitalistic colonial mindset is very much to extract and to make a sale, to make a certain amount of money, to have a certain return on investment for people and things. And so that kind of didn't feel exactly right because sometimes for me, the return on investment when I was talking to someone about something they really wanted to get across to the people they wanted to get it across to wasn't necessarily about a monetary thing or a return on the investment they were making to me. And so those started to get murky. And, you know, the answer to that from folks who mentor from a very colonial work, that you should pick a niche and remember that the only job copy is to sell, and that you
Mm,
sell the way you can. Now, more like folks who have maybe some more morals around that and ethic around that would say do that ethically and without lying. But we all know that there are lots of ways that copy sells by telling not quite the truth. And so, blatant lies. I mean, that's the truth.
mm,
So
mhm,
yeah, having those morals and those ethics myself really changed when I started copywriting about how I wanted to interact with people, the types of clients that I took, and also kind of seeing out in the world that the things that are very popular on the way that we copy and promotion and sales right now is usually through social media. And
mhm,
people, social media do that quickly, right? Like we have sound bites and reels, and they're fast. So people tend to very easily co-opt what is popular at the moment. Um,
mhm,
Whether it's co-opting a movement, whether it's language. African American vernacular is one of them, where folks who are pulling that a lot into their copy and their promotional, but it is not a part of their life. It is not a part of their story. It's not who they are. These types of things seem like they are ways that they could get people to and sell to them,
mhm.
and they're using that. So that is where I kind of drew the line, as far as my copy was going. And I was like, let's take it back here and figure out what is your authentic voice as a person, and who are the people you're trying to talk to, and do those write your copy. It's not only authentic, but that it is true. There's
Mhm.
some people see that kind of differently sometimes, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Authentic and true. Okay. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that. Um, okay. So I'm hearing like this, um, this seeing very clearly the core ability, I guess, in the general community of being in the business community of finding your own voice, knowing who you are, staying in your lane. There's like a lacking of skills. And then when you don't know that, then you're overstepping and you're taking from everybody else, right? I'm hearing the your ability to see the multi the myriad of purposes to what copy is, the expansiveness to copy versus the linear purpose of making the sale.
Yes.
So that's cool. And that sounds to me, and I'm getting, this is me and I can't switch it off. This in my story mind of seeing this in your story and your ability. You're talking about being that chameleon, right? And that being your life. That as somebody with your cultural, racial intersections, marginalized intersections, you know what it's like to go between places, switch voices, all that kind of play. And so you
Oh
can
yeah.
recognize when people are in their voice and when people are not, right?
Yes.
You can see that. Um, yeah, I feel like it's very clear to me why you're so skilled in that and being able to, you're hyper vigilant to be able to recognize
Yes.
that in others.
Hypervigilant would
Yeah.
be the word. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
maybe a little anxious about it. I mean, it's gotten to the point
Sure.
too where you're totally right. A lot of that too is, and I saw someone in the comments saying ROI has always been about money. And you're right. I mean, I think we
Mhm.
all know that the exchange of goods and services and the payment for those types of things is something, you know, people know very well. I mean, money is to me neutral, right? Making a sale, that is a neutral thing. Um, and but what is missing from some of that marketing and sales nowadays, and I say nowadays, even though I don't mean present day, I mean, it's been happening for a long time, but is that reciprocity, right? Like the collectivism and the reciprocity of it. And so when we get on, the like ROI in the sense of having like a pinpoint moment that shows us we have done the thing, we're forgetting all of the ways that the tentacles spread out, right? And who it impacts. And, if I'm asking as a copywriter, am I using language that is, it might sound really, trendy to my client, but is it causing harm to the people who read this? I mean, like that. And that is an important aspect that I think sometimes in marketing can go right out the window, because they know, hey, a lot of folks who are watching this right now are going to be on this trend. And to me, I would much rather be like, this is causing harm, not doing this. And so that cannot match up all the time.
Thank you, Christina.
Or tribe. Oh
Chat,
my
like
gosh,
using
someone just,
tribe.
yes, exactly.
Who was it?
Exactly.
Is Dare in the in the room? I don't know, but Dare just posted the best post the other day about,
Yeah,
oh
I'm
my gosh,
here. I'm
find it.
here. I'm lurking. I'm lurking.
Can you tell me what you posted the other day? Because I freaking love that.
Which one? I post a lot of shit.
You told you I think you said that in a comment actually to me when I commented on your post about
Oh,
you were talking
is it
about
about the
tribe.
family? Is it about the
About
like
yeah, about family, like about yeah,
yeah.
I think the post was something along the lines of like just how ghastly it is
Yeah.
that we are
Well, it
as a
was like
community to be.
yeah, it was like no, the move is somebody said the move is from girl boss is out, soft CEO is in, and I was like the pattern is just
Yeah.
so ghastly because it's just like another
Yeah,
form of capital. It's like, oh,
yeah.
we're getting blowback on the girl boss thing, rightly so, because it's fucking colonial. But now, so we're gonna move the target so that you're like, this is the new trend, which is still the old trend. It's still the same, you know. But I think
Right.
in the comment, I was just like, if you don't have a real community or something that you're really fighting for, like people that like relationships that matter to you beyond just making money, then the ideals of capitalism become your family. You know, that
Mm.
becomes your tribe. It's like, oh, now I have to protect capitalism because I have nothing else to protect. It's
Right.
my identity, and that's your family, and it's just like, yeah,
Whoa.
but we're not the yeah. I just it's just so weird to see people defend this thing that's like a parasite because they don't have anything else in their lives that really matters because it's been taken from them on some weird systemic level, you know?
Totally.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mhm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing that there. That was, yeah, so it's spot on. Yes, when we don't have our own sense of family, our own sense of roots, our own lineage, our own knowing where we're from and what is sacred to us and what we have to protect, then we step on everybody else's sacredness and all the other things that others are trying to protect, right? Their
Mm-hmm.
sense of family. We're just completely um what's the word? Blind to it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I mean the recording is yeah, yeah, go teach, go dance. I love that. I yeah, I'll make sure I send the recording out to everybody. Yeah, all good.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, I think to that point too, that can be, selling in times like these too. And we've seen it. Like, how many of us have people that we followed, on Instagram or someplace else in the last 6 or 7 months have been like, whoa,
mhm,
their silence is incredibly violent. Or we have thought that they represented something and do not. Or
mhm,
um, just that they're, like you have said, that it's business as usual, They still got to make the money. They're still doing the programs. And it just seems so out of touch. You're just like, like that it's not hard to see very clearly in those moments, like the ways that supremacist thinking and colonialism and capitalism will always design new ways to keep that idea safe. And so whether it's girl boss, to soft CEO or to hustle. I mean, I know, like, growing up as a child of an immigrant, like, hustle was supposed to keep you safe. Like, hustle meant that you were always, no matter what happened or where you came from, if it's the bootstrap mentality, right? Like, if you work hard and you do all of that, then you will end up in success. And it's this, those types of ideas with selling too. A service or a course or whatever is still very, very prevalent. And so I've had to do a lot of deconstructing work too, because that has been ingrained in me. And we all know that's not going to keep us safe. So trying to relay that to and sometimes I don't work with these clients because they're not there yet. But relaying that to a client can be tricky, because it is deeply ingrained in our culture. And in what people feel success is.
For sure. Okay, so I'm hearing this like kind of thinking about this overarching question of what I what I said that this talk would be about, which we're going to talk about whatever we're going to talk about anyway, but talking about navigating, like, how do we do this? How are we supposed to still be in business? How are we still supposed to operate and make the money and feed our children and all of that? Being conscious of all of these things. I'm hearing in what you've said so far a little bit about being able to be selective with clients that you do take on. I hear that as a part of it. What else is there? Like, what
this might surprise you.
Okay.
Diversify. I'm going to say it again. Diversify. And this is part of, I think, really for me. And I'm coming at this from a privilege I also have of being able to fall back on, not necessarily my blood family, but family of my spouse, where if we get in a pickle, I can call on them. So I'm fully acknowledging that is not a reality for people. However,
and that is a communal support that we all deserve, by the way.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And so it's one of those things, though, that I'm saying diversify, because when I started out on this copy, I was just had my third child, and just come out of a pandemic where I had been pretty burnt out as a nurse, for 3.5 years of a global pandemic. And so I was taking a break from nursing and really I was writing a lot. And so I really wanted to be able to do that in a way that, was monetized in some way. However, because I could see very rapidly that I was going to have to niche down and pick certain clients in order to make, the goal of 10,000 a month, like that's, for some reason, that is the number for everybody. It's like 10,000 a month, like whatever, or to eliminate, the other goal was eliminate your daytime job. And so I was like, look, I've always been a jack of all trades, master of none. And then I found out there's a whole other section to that saying: still always better, master of one. Folks, they have been telling us that we
Mhm.
shouldn't be diversifying and we shouldn't be
Yeah,
calling
yeah,
on
yeah.
each other and using each other's skills
Mhm.
because that's what works for them. And then the
Mhm.
whole other part of that saying is, but actually, it's always better than only being good at one thing. It's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
so he was like, you know what? I am going to pick up little jobs to do it this way because if I remove, and you remember, Clinder, because I think we were talking about this when I was like, I think I'm going to do this, even though it feels weird. It feels weird not going
Mhm.
all in on this one role
Mhm.
because everyone says, like, you got to go all in on this one role. And I was
Mhm.
like, maybe I can sell some artwork. Maybe I can offer this to people. Maybe I can, we have a, we're a port town. Maybe I can clean some boats a couple mornings a week and before the kids
Mhm.
wake up and I can do that for a couple $100.
I love
You know,
that.
like,
Thank you for cleaning the boats. Just so, yeah. I don't know.
you know
I
what
know
I
some
mean?
people don't
Like,
know me, but I'm a sailor and I don't cleaning boats is not I'm like no, I sail the boats. I don't clean the boats.
and I love
Thank
doing
you
that
for
because
cleaning them. You make them really fast.
I make them, I put my podcast in, I get my work done.
Love it.
And so, I kind of, that seems weird because especially in the culture I was raised in, especially my
Mm,
mother's culture, they
mm,
simultaneously did all those jobs and all those works. I know you talked a lot about your
mhm,
uncle, who was an amazing skill sharing person who like found
mhm.
ways to innovate. These are
Yeah,
in our bloodlines doing that, right? and
right,
and
right.
yet we're scared into being like, if I got to go and do that, like I have failed. And so I'm just
Mhm,
saying, like, how we do it right now is to have these moments where we're talking about this, right?
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
to recognize that I am a nurse, I am a copywriter, I do art. Hey, I know Clarinda, who is
mhm,
also doing decolonizing business stuff, and we are bringing collectiveness to the forefront and
mhm,
recognizing that when we are short on the rent, we call out to each
mhm,
other and we say, who can hype my artwork so I can make the rent this month?
mhm,
Who can,
mhm,
and that there is zero shame in that. It doesn't mean you're not a professional.
mhm,
It doesn't mean you're not good at your job. Do you see what I'm saying?
mhm,
Like
mhm,
diversifying and removing the shame from that narrative, I think, is how we
mhm.
do it. Because and I'm only saying that because that's how our ancestors have done it, right? Like
That's right. Mhm.
they have found this is not the new way. We are remembering an
No.
old way. And
Oh, yes.
we just need to get loud about it
Yes.
with each other.
Ah, yes. Okay. Okay. I love you. I love you for this. Diversify. Oh my gosh. So this just has like the tinglies going off in my brain. I think about like, with my stories, well, like growing, yeah, like it's of course, this is what our parents did when they were in a pickle. They did all the things. They diversified. My mom was like, she was working in social services, she was writing resumes for people and like people and getting people employment. And in that same office, she also baked cakes, brought them to work, sold them, made people's lunches, right? Did that, fed people. And in that same office, she would like finish work at 5 o'clock, come home, pick us up because we all came home from school, pick us up, we'll come back to the office and we clean the offices because we were also the cleaners for the building. You know what I mean? We did all the things.
Yes.
And it's like, of course, that didn't make her any less professional, didn't make her not as good at her job in resume writing or what it was just, these are the times, these are our needs. No shame. I just love, thank you. That's like so permission giving, I feel. I don't know what you're all thinking on that, but like for me, I just feel like that's such a, like, yes, we absolutely, I mean, I always have that sense about me, like, yes, we deserve communal support in all kinds of ways, right? That's just baseline needs that most of us are not getting that need met. So I'm always like, yeah, as many resources that we can pull on, family,
Mm,
for me, like we have in like, so for example, like in Samoan culture, there's the concept of alavi laves, which is like, and it can be problematic. There's a whole thing about it, but it's the idea that, if you're like sisters, husbands, uncles, niece, 3 times removed as having a wedding, then we need to send money for that. And there's like
Yes.
an economic system where
Mm-hmm.
everybody gets supported because everyone is expecting to, when they have their big events, when they're in a pickle, that money gets sent from everybody for people you don't know, you know. So I'm always from that perspective that, like, yeah, we deserve that economic support. But I feel like for what you've done for me is you've really brought this to like a very, very like now context of, to like snap us out of that mentality that I feel like we need to continue to remember of, like, okay, back to basics. What did our old people do when they were in a pickle? Oh yeah, they diversified. They got really clear on, okay, they know their roles, they know what they're really good at, and also they can do a bunch of things. So we're just going to do all the things and do whatever's necessary, pull on
Yes.
whatever resources we have, and do what's
Mm-hmm.
necessary. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
That's what
Yes.
movement, that's the movements we're seeing right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we would be remiss to not recognize that we are aware of the genocides that are happening right now
Mm-hmm.
because of the resourcefulness and the resilience of a people to be like, they won't listen to us, but we have social media.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Right.
even in the painfulness of sharing that, we have that resource, and we will use that resource to the end as much as we can. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's diversifying, and it's also the maybe turning the resource on itself, right? I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
know that folks right now, and I think one of the questions you asked about what's frustrating about the industry right now is that I'm not really frustrated with the industry of marketing, because that is behaving and doing exactly what it's been
Exactly
designed
what
to
it's
do.
always done. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's
Mm-hmm.
always done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Most frustrating is the ongoing silencing and erasure of people, of voices, of Black, Brown, Indigenous people who are well suited lead these movements for change, and
Mm-hmm.
and the structure, the system knows, like, these folks can be organized, these folks can be resourceful, these folks
Mm-hmm.
can be and so the way we do that is silence it. And so we have to also diversify our communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
We make our own communication
Mm-hmm.
techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are, like I said, they're not new. It's copy, it's
Mm-hmm.
podcast, it's
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, it's
Mm-hmm.
zines. I mean, the other day I was with
Mm-hmm.
my oldest, who's 7, who loves drawing and loves making comic books, and we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
the political and beautiful ways that zines, just pieces of paper folded up, have been able to spur movements, because
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of printing, and that's how we passed
Mm-hmm.
information on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
diversifying our communication too, which is not
Mm-hmm.
new.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
our
no,
ancestors have done it
exactly.
through food, through Pacifica dancing, through
Mm-hmm.
music. It's
Right?
not new.
Yep. 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 Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. All the ways. We do it in all the ways. And even when we can't, even when we're not allowed to, even when it's harmful and fatal for us to communicate, we still find our ways. We communicate in braiding. We communicate in
Mm,
the weaving of ourselves. We find our ways.
yes.
Yes, yes, we do.
Ooh, that gave me
Thank you for
shivers.
bringing that up. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That gave me shivers.
I actually learned about that recently. I was talking with one of my absolute favorite podcasts of all time. People in Tala Time have heard me talk about it over and over and over again. It's called the Moanan. It's only a recent, like, there's a only one season and like maybe 6 episodes, but like the first episode is with Sunny Nathaniel, who after that podcast I was like, I'm reaching it. I need to talk to this person. He's a Samoan uh he was a part of the Samoan Navigation Society,
Oh
Voyaging
yes.
Society. Yeah, yeah. So he's a sailor and celestial navigator and all of that kind of cool stuff. But I was like, we need to have a meeting, we need to talk. So me and my sister and him got together and we had a chat. We just needed to pick his brain. But he was telling us, yeah, anyway, this is tangential, but just to that point about like braiding and weaving of the sails, he talked about like in the weaving of the sails and in the lashings, in the tying of so we call it line, or but most people would know that as rope. They're like lashed in a particular way on the boat. And the patterns that they're lashed in tell us, like, give us certain perspectives of how we could see of certain measurements of celestial, like what's going on, and also like the storytelling and all of the lashings as well, so that when we have different people on the boat, there's stories being communicated, there are things that so yeah. And then he said yeah, of course, because he was talking to somebody else of African descent. I can't remember where specifically, but they were bringing up that point of that, that like enslaved folks were coming over and braiding seeds and braiding pathways into the hair, and so things are being communicated even when we can't in our normal ways, and that when he was talking to this person, she was like, yeah, of course you would have all of that information in that, like like that's how it's like the braiding in your lashings, and it's the same thing.
Yes.
We will find our ways. We find our ways.
We will.
Yeah.
And, a lot of those times too, I want to give a shout out to the folks that are in the room too, like, and I have to actually say, like, I have been so moved recently by Leah Manamea and her work with Tariki Onas. She goes under the IG handle co-culture, and I'll put it in the chat because it's a strange writing. But she's an Irish psychotherapist and does amazing liberation work, and was saying the other day, she is so great, oh my gosh, she was talking the other day to that end about trusting that our ancestors, no matter who we are, have buried treasures in our bodies when it was too dangerous to use them, and that they will reveal themselves when it's the right moment, if we let them. And so she was talking a lot about how Indigenous people are, because when we introduce ourselves, we always do this, like, we're making connections about where our people are from, who we come from, how that connected to this and connected to that, even if we're from different places. And if colonialism has impacted you to the point where you have been forced or otherwise assimilated through a process where you have forgotten or been disconnected from those, she calls them, and I have to remember it, she calls them coordinates of belonging. Coordinates of belonging, that Indigenous people, we use those so that we can find each other, we can relate to each other. And if you are someone here, or someone who has been devoid of that, that is the work, right? Is to find that self again, so that when you are with Indigenous people, you're not co-opting, you're not creating a vacuum of extraction. And so that you can be someone who's in solidarity. And I thought it was I just like felt so amazingly seen when I heard that, because that is part of the way we do this thing. And like you were talking about, we already know how to do it. Even folks who feel disconnected in some way. Because I know as a mixed person, there have, depending on the environment, there have been times where I have even participated in the erasure of my own people, because that is what is required by the
Mhm.
people around me in order to be safe or to get ahead or to feel successful. That happens a lot in academia. And
Mhm.
so to do that,
Mhm.
I think that the more I say that out loud, the more I call in, you know, my ancestors from Benin, my ancestors from my Embera ancestors, my Cunha ancestors, my British and Scottish ancestors. The more I call those in, you hear them too. The more other people do that, we hear them too. Say, oh my gosh, like you were talking about ropes being navigational. Like I can talk about, carvings being navigational. I can, they're all touch points for us. And so it might seem like it's not the same as far as sales or marketing or copywriting, but I think for me, in writing copy or doing business right now in this climate, it is, if we're working towards liberation for all of us, it is in that spirit and in that movement that we are thinking about all of those connections, our writing or providing our services to that end, each other. We
Mhm.
all know that the way the system is, there are, and I know I have plenty of people who are not kinfolk anymore. they have they have
Sure.
moved up the chain, and it is safe feeling the security of those systems to the point where they're willing to sacrifice everything else for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So really all we have is each other. All we have is each
Mhm.
other and those connections and
Mhm.
using our
Mhm.
skills, whatever they are, diversified, um,
Mhm. Mhm.
to do that for each other.
Mm. Stacey, I feel like you're really making a case for community. I maybe maybe that's important. Maybe we need to be like actually hanging out with each other and helping each other out. I don't know. Collaborating? I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe
I
not
think that's the beauty.
competing.
I mean, as much as I'm like, so, man, Instagram has been a blessing and a curse, right? I mean, for any of us who have
Mhm.
been witness, especially these last 7 months to something that's been going on for years and years and years and atrocities all over the world, we are in a direct path by scrolling, seeing this every day. And so, I mean,
Mhm.
for my limbic system, it is difficult. And being witness is part of that.
Mhm.
We have to be there for that. And you're right. The
Mhm.
community, we found community through that.
Mhm.
There is no
Mhm.
Palestinian mother those children are my children. And so it's
Mhm.
like gifts from those types of connections, but they do have their limitations, right?
Mm.
Um, so we need to diversify that too in the ways that we do it, that it
Yeah.
can only be posts and reels. It has to be other ways.
Yeah. 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 Well, I just love in general how you decentered. You've really taken us away, and thank you for this, from this kind of access point to this conversation of like, how do we still do business? Like, how do we still maintain? How do we reframe our relationship with doing business right now so we can still feel good about doing it or whatever? And how do we get over ourselves to like still sell?
Yes.
Um, and you've really come away but very, very far away off that path, which I love, which is to like, oh no, that's really just not everything. Let's just not forget all of the other things and all of the other ways that we can be supported. Not just you're not just saying, you're not just calling us to pause and reflect and pay attention to what's going on in the world and drop everything and help where we can. I'm not hearing that in your plea. Like I'm hearing like, oh, we need to be supported, but that's gonna look different right now. And
Yeah.
so just as we have always done, Now's the time we diversify. Now's the time we get creative. We pull on all
Yeah.
of our other skills and traits.
Yeah.
It's just yeah, we this is our pivot. This is
Yes.
and this is what we do in business. This is not like a time where like, oh, okay, well, it's, okay, not business as usual. It actually, for me, it kind of is like, this is and should be business as usual. This is what we do. This is how
Yes.
we move, right?
Right.
We continue to tap into the needs of our community. That is business. If that's not your business, what are you doing?
Yes. Yes.
Right?
And also, like you were saying, you touched on something there related to the community part, and also like that. I'm not there. We're all going to have our responsibilities to things, and that's part of making those connections and those touchstones and talking about them when we are introducing ourselves, when we are talking about our gift or our work or our service that we're selling. And I think, capitalism will tell us, don't say that. This is all about what the other people want. But making that connection, that's what I'm talking about, truth and authenticity. Here we go. We came full circle.
Thank you. I wanted to come back to that one.
That's what we're talking about, right? If I don't say, look, I love copywriting and I'm damn good at it. I'm an exceptional nurse. I also balance living with 3 children, some of which have special needs. And I'm always trying to figure out how I get out of the grocery store for less than $100. It is impossible right now. Like, I've got rent to make. I've got to figure out how to, pay my deductible on health insurance that doesn't cover shit. Those things exist. If I don't talk about that when I'm trying to rep my business, then I'm not going to connect with anybody. But there are people who will make you believe that you should not talk about yourself like that because it's not about you. I'm saying maybe we need to think about that differently, because I know I came to storytellers with you, my ears were open and I was looking for bullshit. I didn't want to believe that, we all want to believe that our community who shows up are going to be authentic, but we've all been hurt where not all kinfolk are kinfolk. And that is the truth. And so like we have to prove it to each other, you know what I mean? But it also means like lead with that, lead with collectivism. I have a master's degree and I've been doing it for this long, and I've taken care of these types of clients who have paid me this, and this. Maybe we need to flip the switch on what makes me good at my job or what I do or effective, who I have served and how much I have made, to what it's doing. Like, is the return on investment building? Is it liberation moving? Are we taking care of each other when we've done it? It's successful and it's worked. Have people had what they needed? You as a business person have thought about that too, because a lot of all of the offerings that you have are for people to be able to feel like they can think of the next thing the way that is authentic to them and to their needs, and that they are doing so in the spirit of liberation.
Yeah. How much deep, I know, I'm just like, I'm watching the time, I'm like, how much deeper do I want? You just touched on something for me that's like, that I talk about so much, which is around like that. Yeah, and you mentioned this before we got on this call too, and a couple of times in this call, that that idea, that very disconnected idea that we have to talk about in marketing, we have to erase ourselves and talk about what other people want to hear. And the gathering of information, the process of like the gathering of how we understand what other people are thinking and how we tap into that is so disconnected. And so just like the how research based it is and what you're looking at, it's like it's so rife with stereotypes and like looking at certain demographics and making a lot of assumptions and then putting a lot of marketing material out in the world that makes people think that, oh, it's not only that message reaches people who that connects with, it's that we get trained over time to believe that that is us too. And it's just like this real like web of disconnection. Whereas, like, yeah, it's like contagious, that disconnection. Whereas when we, I talk about this all the time of like for me, our best audience research is here. Like it's right there. What is at the surface for you today in this moment that you think everyone else is just like, you know, going on in their day and like everything's great for everybody else, but it's not great for me right now. Maybe I'll just put that away for right now and present myself in a certain way because I'm assuming that everyone else is no. What is right here? Because guaranteed, because we're all connected and we know this.
Yes.
So if you're experiencing something, somebody else on the other side of the world absolutely is experiencing exactly the same thing at that exact same time. You need to speak to it. We need to
Yes.
speak to it.
And some of my clients that have been most successful in working with copy with me is one, they allowed me to do, I mean, we call it voice of customer, but really it's me pulling story from people who
Yes.
have
Yeah, yeah,
worked
yeah.
with them. And
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
some people who have not been able to work through the process with me because they don't want to wait for story to emerge. They like the
Mhm.
sound bite and the clip of people saying, this was a great place, for me to go. I learned it was great. But they don't want me to
Mhm.
pull story about what was it about this person that made you give them your money to like learn from
Mhm.
them, to hear what was going on in their
Mhm.
lives. So the people who have been very successful in writing copy and even with reselling or launching a program with me has been folks who allowed me to do that, who took the time to do that, and who
Mhm.
also were willing to hear like, whoa, like people actually said a lot more than they did a survey about how you like the class.
Mhm.
um and it does take more time,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
usually it is way more real about
Mhm.
the tone and the language and the story that people are using. And I mean, anybody knows that that is way more um, relational and, connecting as a strategy. If we're talking
Mhm.
about strategy,
Mhm.
than anything else.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. 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 No, that's necessary. It does take time,
Yeah.
but that's real. Yeah.
Algorithms. Yeah. Ooh, we could talk about that too.
Ah, yes. Yes. Well, yeah, that was a whole series, right? End of last year, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking, had a whole discussion series beyond the algorithm. Yep. I was confused
Mm-hmm.
about what resonates. Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're getting false signals for sure.
And we've actually been
Yes.
trained to, right, to that point, Lydia, that we've been trained to really take that on. If we haven't gotten a certain number of likes or certain number of follows or
Right.
certain number of shares, that is
Hmm.
on us, right?
Right.
But
Right.
we are battling a system that is designed to silence a certain type of um, from
Voice. Yeah.
using certain types of words from certain types of people. So
Hmm.
it is not I mean, I don't even know if you'd call it a fair fight, but
Yeah, but I think that again goes to your point again of diversifying, right? Diversifying our communications, who we're connecting with, so that we're getting a better cross section of where, like our fingers on the pulse of where our people are really at. Where we
yes.
really are. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So obviously we can keep doing this for hours, and I would love to. but I'm conscious of time. Um, what is left unvoiced for you? What did you really want to say today that hasn't been said?
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to be able to talk to folks. Like, I guess my only thing is, does anybody have any questions or any like things that they want to say
You can
about
totally
that?
open it up.
Because um yeah, I mean, I feel like, there's so many times that I've heard questions to the effect of like, how do you keep your how do you keep your values when you're selling your thing? You know?
Mm, mhm,
I don't
mhm,
know the answer to that because I cannot do anything but that. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't
mhm. Right.
sometimes to the fault of me thinking I'm not cut out to do something. I'm not cut out to do this job or this thing because I can't love
Mhm,
that thing,
mhm,
you know? And that's what you hear, you hear the like, don't talk about yourself, keep your job and your separate, those types of
mhm.
work-life balance.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't a situation where I carefully diversify and budget myself so that I have more of the things that I need to keep myself mentally well. Um,
Mhm,
and all of us should have that ability without feeling like we
mhm,
can't do that. But it
mhm,
does mean that you have to push against that idea that I spent a lot of money going to college for a job I don't work all the time anymore. I mean, I'm in the
mm,
hospital
mm,
2 days a week.
mm,
And
mm, mm,
so that would be a failure for a lot of people.
mm, mhm,
But I have to flip the script on that and not do that. So I guess I'm
right.
wondering if people have felt like they are having trouble doing that with their own services, or I don't know,
Mm, mm,
are in that place where they're dismantling that. Because a lot of my copywriting work right now is toward um, is movement work, truthfully. I've
mm,
been doing a lot
mm.
of copy for third party candidates
Oh,
locally
fun.
and other things like that.
Oh, so cool. You know who you should connect with, is Nectar Digital Collaborative.
Ooh, that's
I'm working with them
okay.
right now. Evelyn, Evelyn Shoop. Yeah, yeah. I always forget. I need people to bring that up, and then I'm like, oh, because there's so many people that I want to connect. But yeah, they do. They do all their social media, digital community building and like debranding of political parties and political organizations. Um, that's the work that they do. They like make them human.
Yeah. Or maybe if you don't have
They're really
questions,
cool.
I wonder, like, do you, Clarinda, have a space in this community where you can kind of put that out there? I mean, one of the things that Maya was saying about was like that we as Indigenous people, when we introduce ourselves, try and pull in our bloodlines and our lineages and our lands and also our longings and our desires for things. And so I
Mhm.
mean, being able to put that out there to this group or to community means that people
Mhm.
can answer that. They can answer that call or they can connect on that. Me saying I'm,
Mhm.
a mixed race Indigenous woman who's queer, that is going to make a connection somewhere. Something
Mhm.
you have said or something I have said are going to connect us together. And so I'm wondering if there's a place that, where board, if you will, where, like for instance, one of the things I'd really like to do in my copywriting work is work more on accessibility, literal,
Mhm.
like how I am framing this and writing this and helping someone present this is able for folks who have low visibility to see. Now, I'm sure there is someone out there who
Mhm.
has
Mhm.
experience in that, and I don't.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I know in my mind, I'm a disabled person, that I want that
Mhm.
to happen. I mean, I'm completely deaf in my left ear, and I've lived my entire life of people talking to me on this side of my head and me being like, no. I'm sorry, and so I am thinking
Well,
about
it's
that all
supposed to
the
be
time.
like interacting with a lot of people that are deaf in this ear. I am losing it in this era too, and a lot of friends that, I don't know, there's something to that. Okay, continue.
So yeah, I mean, it's like I'm thinking about all of those things when I'm writing, and
Mm.
even though that's not necessarily my job in the copy realm, it's something I'm thinking about. Like, when this goes to print or whatever, what do people need to know about projecting this? So that's, I mean, maybe there's a place where we can all drop that in. These are the desires of things that I'm looking for, and maybe it's not
Mm.
necessarily business related. I mean,
Yeah,
learning about
yeah.
my West African ancestors, that's on my mind.
Mm.
Trying to
Mm.
teach my children, my mother's languages, that's on my
Mm.
mind to do. And
Yeah,
so we all have those things we can find connections with
yeah.
and
I
relations
love
on.
I love that. Yeah, yeah, like a longing sport. But yeah, that is very specific. I mean, we have our community, we have our feed and whatnot. But that's intentional. That needs to be intentional to invite that particular interaction and that particular, I find I'm always having to encourage people like, yeah, like, oh, I'll talk to somebody one on one, they're like, yeah, I'm eating this, whatever. I'm like, post in the community. This is what community's for. There's people out here. Yeah, let me connect you with so and so, or but
Mm,
in the meantime, post it because there might be other people in there. But yeah, maybe you planted a seed. I really like that. Um, we and you're not the only one who's like, you're not the first one who's brought that up. Like over the past couple of years, people have increasingly mentioned that of wanting to get needs met and knowing that there's somebody out there, but
yes.
it's just we're struggling with in that isolation kind of thing. Um, there, just catching up in the
I see a
chat
hand up
here.
too. I see a hand
Cool.
up.
Let's go with
See
yeah.
Darius is over there.
Let me just I just want to address what Darius says, and I'll and you can unmute just so we'll chat. Darius has said I might reach out, but and how do I sell my work which is in many ways intrinsically anti-capitalist is the issue I've been having for a while. No need to answer it, just wanted to voice it. Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I
My
mean, I
quick
feel like
answer
that's
to
a big
that, and I'm
question.
not a marketing
Mm.
professional, I would leave that to Clarinda, but my quick answer to that would be, can we interrogate selling and making money from capitalism in some way? Can we interrogate what that means? Because, like I had said kind of earlier, the reciprocity and the goods and services and the trading and the payment of is neutral to me and neutral to many of us, and has
Mhm.
always been something we have
And
done to
it's
keep
not
each other well.
right. It's not that doesn't belong to capitalism. This
Correct.
predates capitalism, right? Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Mhm.
Right. And so selling it, sell your stuff. Like, tell people what you have to offer. No way you're not automatically a capitalist to do that, to pay your rent and to take care of your family and yourself. You know what I mean? So yes, we should all be interrogating that.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, thanks for that. I think no, that's an important distinction. Just reading your chapter, Lydia. I like the book. To Sell is Human. It's not a perfect book, but it talks about the relational aspects being core. Yeah, exactly. Like this is for me. I'm just like, well, that just that question about um being able to sell work with and I understand with you, Dare, your work is as you've said, intrinsically anti-capitalist. It's just not that selling is just like you said, it's neutral. It's just
Mm-hmm.
we've always done this. So we have to be able to separate out what and reclaim
Mm.
what we have always done, the parts of it that we've always done, and be able to separate that out from what does harm, what is violent, and keep doing our business as we've always done. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a whole discussion in that, but I think that separation, that distinction is important. I don't think it's actually, I don't feel like it's actually that much to navigate. I say that with, I'm going to contradict that in the next sentence. It's like every day it's a practice, right? But I guess from just conceptually, it's not that difficult of a thing to get your head around. It's just we have always done this. This is, we have always traded. We have always put our gifts to use. We have always been valued for that, been seen in that. We have to look at the ways that we recreate protocol. I talk about this a lot. Like when we talk about pricing, a lot of it comes to do. This comes up when it comes to the conversation of money, the trade, like money exchange.
Right.
That's where the trigger comes up. We're like, oh my gosh, I'm a capitalist now.
Yeah.
I'm accepting money. But we have to understand that from the context of how we have diversified as modern Indigenous people, and how we are using the resources that we have, the currencies that we have, and yeah, how we've made that shift from, and I always talk about this from a it's typically it's very common for healers and people in medicine, right, where they're like, I can't accept money for what I do. I can't do that culturally. That's not accepted for me to accept money. Okay, cool, but there's a lot to that, but what were the protocols though for engagement with a healer traditionally for you?
Absolutely.
And there were protocols, right? There are
Always
absolutely protocols. There are terms of engagement. And those terms of engagement now must be diversified, must be shifted to accommodate where we are living right now. We're talking about times where our people, of course, got free healthcare because that's a human right. But there were protocols. There were things that we had to do to be able to get to engaging with healing. I come from my great-granny Mala, my mother's grandmother on the Samoan side was the Tolosea. Engaging with her there was protocol. That there are certain things you got to come with. You got to come with kava. You got to come with the tobacco, the whiskey,
tobacco.
And there's and there's a process, not just an exchange of things. Even if you give those things, you then can't expect that the work will be done. You can't, there's a certain kind of relationship, a dynamic. And so all of those things speak to protocol. And so for me now, I'm like, when I work with people, they're like, I don't know if I can charge it. We're setting protocols in place that make sure that you get looked after, because healers in our culture have always been looked after. So that is a base thing that you need. We need to work that into our protocols.
Right. And diversify may or may not help with that, right? Like if we are getting our needs met in this post-capitalistic, post-colonial society, right? Hopefully, if we're getting our needs met in other small ways through our community or through our work, then give your gifts and your skills for free, or in an exchange of something else. But until we can do that, until we can build that, and we are doing it actively right now, then it is a protocol making. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
I'll shut my door real quick.
Yeah. Justina, did you want to unmute and chat with us?
Yes. I don't know if this is a comment or a question or none of those, but what came to mind as you were sharing about, sharing our struggles, and me and Clarinda talked about this the other day, like what's going on with me? And I'm like, I'm underemployed, I have no money, I've just got Medicaid, I have a PhD. I'm just like, what is going on? How is this possible? And I'm also launching this whole thing. And of course, like everything that I do is medicinal and has that, liberatory lens, goal, process. And it's my real truest interest is how do we get how do we get the resources and the money to do this, our work, not just mine, but everyone, and how can I support other people in doing what they need to do? But I don't even have like my basic needs met. So I am like, that is my authentic where I'm at right now. And it's like, how do I express that? The thing I want to do is something that I don't even know how to do. And we're all like, what are we doing? Like, how am I supposed to say that? Like, that is like, I feel like people want to go to a workshop where there's this person who's made $1 million and this person who's like, they organized 5,000 people and this artist who got the Creative Capital Award and that, it's like, I've studied a lot of things. I am a psychologist. And so there's like the practicality aspect of what we're doing collectively, and that all of us are like trying to organize in some way. But then there's like the medicinal stuff that is embedded within everything that we do, that doesn't, at this moment, doesn't feel very compelling. It feels compelling, like this is my story and what I believe in. But it's like, we're all doing this. We all kind of know, we get the gist, but we're like, where's the money? Where's the, what do we do? How do we strategize? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, and so that is like, it's just like my brain is trying to process these ideas about where I am authentically and how do I express that? How do I express that? And that still doesn't mean that any more people will want to join me in a conversation or an email or and I know that that is such a large, a thing that we all appear to be experiencing, according to this conversation.
Yeah.
I think that we are all collectively experiencing. And so I'm wondering, I don't know what I'm wondering. I'm wondering like, what am I really gonna say? Like in these sessions, what am I really gonna post? What am I really like, you know, there's a sense of like trying to force my or our own like hero's journey and being, and I rose above.
Right.
And here I stand before you.
Yes. Oh my
It's
gosh.
like, what if it's that? What if we're all just like, what is going on? Like, what are we? How are we still alive right now? Like, I just wait. Can we pause for a second?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oof. First of all, I hear all
do you
that.
want to speak? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know the necessarily the like a clean like this is the answer how, because I'm a person that works in like the gray zone for every part of my life. But I think that maybe this is all about a couple of things. One, us disentangling slowly ourselves from one point of being like, this is what it means to be someone with a PhD or an MSN or who's been a nurse for 20 years or whatever, and someone who has this to offer now. And if I'm not doing whatever capitalism has deemed is the successful point of that, then I am not doing it. And it's someone mentioned in the chat, it's the same thing about social media. Everyone is plugging like, you have got to post 8 times a week and you have to do this type of and you have to do the TikTok dance, and those are all ways we can promote. I'm not like saying yay or nay to them, but I think that because we have lived in this and we are all raised up in it, we understand that this is the way we have to be able to be successful, and it's kind of proving out, right? I mean, to your point, if we're trying to find the money to make the thing happen, because that's what they've said you need to do, like to get into this conference, to show up at this market, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, truthfully, I'm not above one, calling out on community. I need this, I need X amount of money to be able to put this forward. Don't know if it's going to work, might work, or might not. That's not the point. The point is to get it out. People. The other thing is like, I mean, I heard you like, bless you. I was on Medicaid for a long time. And then I was able to make enough money where I came off of that. You use the resources that they are throwing at us and that they give to us. Without shame, you take it and you do what you need to do with it. I love that. You take what resources you have. And I mean, I don't know, Clarinda, what else do you think? What else do we do to like
So like for me, it speaks to me of, and I feel like this is definitely where I'm at in my own personal kind of relational journey, is like because what I wanted to say in response was like, okay, it is absolutely okay to go all in. Like this is where we do learn what we and take what serves us from whatever marketing strategies we're learning, like get things really streamlined, get things really efficient. There's that aspect of things, right, where we get really, really good at our craft, at our messaging, at making sure that that's super effective and that's pulling the right people, the quality people to you, bringing the funds that you need. There's definitely like things we can do there, right? This is not a shying away from that. No, we go all in and we get really, really good at that, right?
for real?
There's that. And also, and this is the personal journey part of it for me, if we're not just fundamentally, if we're not able to, if we are unpracticed at asking for our needs to be met in general with all people in our life, that's going to show up in your business, in the way that you're going about that too, right? And this is really about like there's some big, we haven't even talked about this yet, the hangups that we have personally to the sales process, which for me I think really stems from this like inability or this discomfort and this doubt, thinking that to ask for our needs to be met, that we may be met with something that we don't want to hear. That there's just there's just a ton of stuff around that, right? But
A ton.
yeah, but I feel like, from that perspective of diversifying, right? Understanding that our business is not the be all and end all. This is really about making sure that our needs are met. That's the big question here that we're really asking. How do we get needs met?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to be getting good in our relationships of all kinds, of asking and communicating, vocalizing, being clear on what our needs are in the first place, and being okay to vocalize that and put that into the hands of community, to put that into the hands of people we're in relationship with, to say, these are my needs.
Which is
Can
really different. This is a beautiful thing you're saying, because this is really different than what's really trendy right now is to say I'm manifesting it. And when people are using that, sometimes they're making it, first of all, it's got some serious harm attached to that word, this manifest destiny. But also the manifesting is like, I'm just putting it out there and hoping the universe will provide. And I can tell you, element of faith and hope in that, and also a very large element of exactly what you're saying, Clarinda, that the manifesting is opening yourself up to say, I desire, I have to have, because this will sustain me to do something else. Community, help me. Spirit, help me. Do you know what I mean? And if we do not do that, it's not going to work. So manifesting, I think sometimes when folks, especially like influencers, kind of be like, all you got to do is manifest it. You just got to believe. I think Indigenous people know there's a whole collection of things and responsibility and protocols
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that come with making those things happen.
Mhm.
That they don't happen in a vacuum. They don't happen in a vacuum. And it doesn't mean it's like super hard work, but you know, if we are raised up in a culture right now that says don't talk about your feelings, don't talk about what you need, it's a bootstrap mentality, you can make it if you hustle, then it's not
Mhm.
part of our vernacular, right? It's not part
Mhm.
of the language we're speaking right now. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So
no,
you're
well,
totally
it's
right.
just like it's so incredibly like unconscious, like manifested this, like on the backs of who?
Yeah.
So, and I think from, that indigenous point of view, like we understand that like, oh, when we need something, we call on our people because we don't create things out of nothing. There, we do this together. Um, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that into the conversation. It's like, yes, manifestation stuff. Um, yeah, yeah, but that's like for me, that's just like really personal for me right now. I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm,
what I can't ask for of my mother, I probably can't ask for of anybody else. You know what I mean? Like it's that whole kind of process. That's me in therapy right now.
I feel that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have to get good at that because I feel like that's the undercurrent of like what what people are really when people come to me with resistances of like, well, I don't know how to put my pricing in a certain way. That it's actually not about any of that. It's that there's this
Mm,
there's this discomfort of asking for what we need and being
hmm.
clear about what we need and being vulnerable to say this is me. This is what I'm coming with. Can you help me with the other part? You know,
Yes.
that's a really vulnerable place to come
Ooh.
from.
I mean, it's also like that's one of the things that I've been thinking about related to shifting to offering my copy at a different pricing level. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
because I'm trying to be noble, it's not, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I'm really not trying to do that. It's really that I've been able through diversification and working it out with my partner to
Mm-hmm.
find a way to make our needs met that, we weren't able to before. And so now
Mm-hmm.
that I'm able to do that, I can shift how I'm doing my business because what I really want to do is do movement work right now. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
work with someone who is selling something that I'm not in agreement for and use that as
Mm-hmm.
the only way I make money. That is just where I am right now. Will that shift if something happens? It could.
Mm-hmm.
But at the forefront of that, I've already decided that I'm not going to do it a certain way or another way. So if I have to
Mm-hmm.
diversify more or I have to diversify in a different way to make that possible, I will. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a really great point. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
Rose's before? I mean, I know we're probably on time, but did you see Rose's question in the chat? I'm trying to find it
Oh,
again
sorry,
just because I
question.
didn't want to.
Oh, I think the most challenging part is knowing how to successfully make money when people tend to steal quickly, um, and then sell it. Oh, I can't see. Sorry, got things blocking my chat. And then sell it. For some reason I can't see that next word. I don't know.
Oh, it says
Effectively, like
sell
yeah,
it more effectively by taking the most
okay.
anti-capitalist pro-relational parts out of it. Really interesting. And I don't know if Rose
Mm,
is still here. I'm not sure if they're talking about like that someone is like literally like stealing their intellectual property or like I can't
mm.
really tell. So maybe you want to talk about that, Rose, if you're here. But and then there was somebody else who said,
I keep feeling the same way. Those with shiny marketing are co-opting the language of liberation and then using the oppressive tactics to sell.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's look, there's a lot to talk about. But this is why I say this is practice, right? We
Yeah.
have to. This is an ongoing thing. This is not something that one conversation will solve. This is not a linear process. There's not an end goal. We are in community, and this is what we do. Um, Yeah,
I
it
think,
is a lot of meatballs.
yeah, I
Oh,
think
Rose, did you want to? Yeah, you can unmute if you like.
Yeah, I can explain if you. I don't mind the cooking sound in the background. I think my partner interviewed you on their podcast, Marita. Do you know my partner? I don't know why I thought they
is that for
interviewed
me or
Oh,
for Clarinda?
Clarinda.
oh yeah. Cool. Sweet.
Yeah,
Nice to
Marita's
virtually
my
meet you.
partner.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm not that cool yet. It definitely was not me.
um, no, people take our stuff constantly. It hasn't happened in a way where sometimes it's actually people that have literally come through our circles and been trained, and there are really specific protocols around how they're allowed to use things, how they're not allowed to use things. And then we literally find out because we have mutual friends that go into their circles after they've been like, oh no, I'm just like way too overwhelmed to do that thing that I was trained on. And then we find out, oh no, they literally took all of it and just made it a little bit more white and woo woo, right? But there's also a lot of softer, less like obvious, but like we've had to continuously boot people off of our email lists, block people on social media, because as soon as we start talking about something, like my partner is a cacao lineage holder, and so that we have a cacao brand, and we talk about a lot of stuff that hadn't really been talked about by a lot of the other people doing cacao. And then you see like immediately once you start talking about it, people just like take it, but they're not doing any of the stuff behind it at all. So it's kind of like, but it's more appealing to people because there isn't that accountability. There's no responsibility. There's no extra work that anybody has to do, but they get to feel really good. Like, oh yeah, like I'm thinking about this thing now that makes me feel like I'm a good person, but there's no work. And then our stuff that tends to be a little bit more like, I think harder for a lot of people to swallow. Some people definitely feel more like, yeah, this is like there's less bullshit here, but it's just so much more work to get traction. I mean, I basically had to pause my business because I got COVID really bad a few years ago, and I've just been in this like slow slog. And if anything, I feel like it's gotten harder and harder, and watching huge brands co-opt things like decolonization, like this woman who's a business coach who has like massive numbers of followers, watching her talk about decolonization and just being like, but it is always talked about in a way that directs her audience back to her. It is never acknowledging who taught you this. Gee, who opened your eyes? Like now it's like really convenient for you to be talking about all this shit now that you have like 1 million followers who you could like spit in their faces and they'd be like, you're amazing, you're so authentic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it just gets a little like, how do we really make it work? Like we have been really working on the diversification piece for sure, but there's still a sense of like just like weariness. Like I don't know if my body can keep going, when like some of the stuff
Yeah.
happens. The chronic like illness kind of presentations that start occurring. So
Vampire.
yeah, I think it's a big question. I don't expect a real answer, but I think that's been sort of the biggest challenge that me and my partner have grappled with, is like really just people who talk the talk, they don't walk the walk, and they get a lot more traction and likability because of that, because it's just more like user friendly for people that are coming from a less maybe revolutionary place. Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thank you for voicing that.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've felt that, um, not necessarily with copywriting necessarily, but in other aspects of my life where, especially if it's something I'm down lineage from, like I'm sharing something that I've learned through my mother or through my bloodline, and then you are um taking the risk of sharing that with folks who do not have a deep connection to that. I don't know if I have like necessarily an answer for you, Rose, although I can understand like where you're at with that. Like, but I do know that a lot of times I have asked myself, to what end am I sharing this? And is this mine? I'm owning it to share. Because I think that if we are talking about collectivism in this convo, and we're talking about like how we can each intersect, often, you know, in the struggle in capitalism, where we have something we can share and a gift or a service or whatever to share with other people, it is by default that we'll get caught up in this, where it's like, hey, that was mine. That was my idea. This is my thing. Right. And I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying it happens to all of us, where we are created something or we're sharing something, and because of our responsibility and our love for it, we take ownership for it. And then we feel like that ownership too is something that can't be taken from us. But I'm wondering, was that the whole point of the share? Do you know what I mean? Because I really do believe that, kind of like what I was saying before, like our ancestors have put these treasures and these gifts in our bodies, and that they will come out when they're ready to, and not all the magic's going to be for everybody. You know what I mean? And the gift is going to know that. You know what I mean? If you're sharing something and someone has not done the respectful work about that, I mean, in my Bruja lineage, like that medicine's not going to be for you, and it will show up in more ways than one. We don't have to, you know, we need to be in right relationship to share those gifts. But when people receive them, that's on them. Like they got to be the ones that receive it. And so I don't know if that's helpful in this scenario at all. I mean, I know that there are some people, copywriters, who have decided that they have application processes for accepting people into a service or a training or an offering, that it's not just anybody. And I mean, that's kind of the climate people are in sometimes, where they are asking people to demonstrate that they're ready to do that. And I don't know if that works in your share or your service or your ceremony, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Clarinda, do you kind of see what I'm?
I do. Yeah, I think there's definitely absolutely something to be said about us being in the right relationship with what we share, knowing that when that is shared, that we can't control what is going on with other people and their interacting with it. However, and I say this as somebody who, like, you know, I know a lot of you don't know my story, but like, early days for me in my business, I have mass trauma around this. You know, I had a ton of my IP stolen, had millions of dollars made with that IP after I left that business interaction, and that was taken from me. Yeah, Lord, and I still feel it in my heart when I'm like that beat just increases as I talk about it. It's still in my body. The you know, you're talking about this exhaustion of it. It's exhausting to be taken from in that way and constantly taken from. And but I've people like us who have had a lot taken from us, we do learn certain tactics. And I know that I have over the years, you know, this is 12 years ago now that this happened to me. You know, I had like over $350, over $350,000 siphoned, embezzled from my business, and then IP stolen, and then millions of dollars was made out of it after. And I saw that, it's right in front of my eyes, just flying in my face. and a ton of people calling me up, calling me a fraud. It was a whole, lawyers and the whole bit. It was a lot. And so I say that to say that I get it. And what I have learned over the years is and this is like the indigeneity of it, is the protocol. Learning that, yes, we can't control what other people do with what we share, what we're gifted with, what is given to us that we put out in the world. However, we can be strategic and be mindful and conscious of how that is shared, of the protocol that it is shared, the terms of engagement, the quality of people that are interacting with us, our filtration process. When I'm talking about getting good at marketing, I'm not just talking about like making good sales. I'm talking about good filtration. Who's coming through to you?
Discernment.
Yeah. And you know this with like the many purposes of copy, right? It's not just about the sale. We're also monitoring like who will we bringing in to interact with this, and that for me is a responsibility to the medicine. That's
Absolutely.
a responsibility to the work. That's if you're going to bring something into the world that is very potent and powerful, we need to get good at how we keep that. Is what our whole story keeping, that's why there was that whole workshop, that class series, and why a big part of my work is about story keeping. It's not just about the telling of stories, it's about how we keep them, how we guard them, how we protect them, how we're custodians of them, how we steward them. Because people are gonna people.
And not all things are for everybody. I mean, that's the other
Absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think when we're selling or we're offering a service and people are like, get it out there, people are thinking, well, that means to everybody. Not everyone are
No.
people.
No.
Like they're just not.
No.
No.
We have to teach people how to respect us. This is what we've lost. This is part of our cultural loss, right? It's that people don't know. So in my culture, right, when you interact with somebody, like traditionally, there's like a formal kind of introduction that the way that you talk about yourself is like refers to the mountain that you belong to, refers to the village that you belong to, the family clan, your toko, your matangali, your tribe, all of that. Those connections. And when you hear that, you make your connections in your head because you go, oh, okay, you're from so and so, I know so and so, da 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 da. That tells me that I have to behave in these ways with you. We've lost that. We've lost that. And so now we have to teach people how to behave with us.
Protocol.
It's unfortunate, but we have to do it. We have to know what our needs are, and then be able to communicate and be like, this is how you must behave with me to interact, not just with me, because it's not about ego. This is about your guardianship, your stewarding of the work that you are doing. If your work is that meaningful and impactful, then that's your responsibility. It's a responsibility to the work to be good at that. And that is being good at your marketing, being good at your filtration of who you're bringing through, of how you're educating people. You have to teach people. And it's not done in a snarky way. It's just like, there are things you need to teach. There's a whole body of work that you need to teach to show people how they interact with something. And that is very valuable I don't want people to forget, that's valuable for people to know. That's also medicine, for people to understand that and be a part of that journey. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it, but I appreciate you bringing that up, Rose. Yeah.
It's a great point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Maddening too. I mean, and also just want to acknowledge the frustration of watching that.
No,
Is
that's right.
fucking maddening. Like, it's all of the things.
Yeah, the disrespect, seeing people talk about things and not make the connections, not make those. It's just not relational.
The more of us that do it, the more of us that enact the protocol and say like, this is the way we are doing it in relation to each other, the more It happens because it's like you're talking
Mhm.
about, Clarinda, when you're in a group and you are making those introductions, it's not like someone's like, yeah, hurry up, get through
Mm.
it.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
this is the protocol is also to respect that this information is coming
That's right.
from where
Yeah.
you are and who you are and what your clan is. And so it's like when you're in a group of, you know, a bunch of Indigenous people, we're all expecting that. We're all expecting that you
Right.
take the time to talk about your blood lineage and your land
Right.
lineage, everything. So the more
Mhm.
of us that do that, the more it will be expected.
Right. Right. Right.
And the
Right. Yeah,
fewer people
exactly.
you'll have
We're
showing up.
teaching the collective.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're teaching the collective over time. It's a process for sure. Um, yeah, but I wanna, and this is me being hyper vigilant because I've got trauma around this, and I'm really good at this now because of that. But just very specifically that educational element of like, so for me over time, what I did was that anybody that came through in that filtration process, as I was tweaking that filtration process that wasn't meant to come through, and I had a bad interaction with somebody, I would turn that into an educational opportunity very publicly. Like, okay, I guess we all need to know about this, and this is what I expect. This is how we interact, and yeah. So I just speak to that of like, as we're continuing to hone in our filtration processes, our access, how people are accessing us, um, and there's so many things to that of how people access us. It's not just in terms of like how many clicks they need to click to get to you. It can also be in your pricing,
Mm,
in the process of like, well, they can't work with you in that way until they've done a one-to-one call, and then they have approved. You've got prerequisites. You've got classes that people have to attend before they can get access to that. They can't one click and buy. It's like you
mm,
have certain filtration processes for people to come through, right? Like I've always had prerequisites, so you can't access me one-to-one until this has been, and that's super super helpful because you know that once you get to because I can't deal with the harm. I can't. I literally I just can't. I can't be talking to somebody just like off of IG who just wanted to access and ask question like,
yeah, it's free
no.
labor. No.
That's literally, and it's literally like it's scary for me. It's like because I've had some experiences that are like, oh, no, I can't do this again. I'm never doing this again. And so I've put like
Really clear about
processes in place. Yeah, but it's like you have to do this, you have to do that. There's prerequisites, and then when people come to talk to me, oh my god,
it. Yeah.
I love who I talk to when I have one-to-ones because everybody that's come through has had a certain level of education, so they know how to treat me, they know how to respect me. Oh, that
I've
feels so
learned that
good. So
from
it's
you
like
so
we're
much.
creating. Mm, oh,
Yeah, I
that's awesome.
appreciate
Yeah,
that,
it's
that
like
about you.
yeah, we're like, and this is me, like little trauma me. I've created what I have had to create safety, to create my containers of safety. But it also simultaneously has been a way to protect the work and
Mm,
protect the stories and the medicine of it.
mm.
So
I love that. No,
yeah.
I've learned that. I've learned that from you because I think I definitely did have some, what's the word? Just itchiness about doing that with some things. And then you know, when you say it plainly, like not
Mm,
everyone gets it. Not everyone gets to have the medicine. It's like, oh yeah, well, of course
mhm,
it is. Like, and
mhm,
and so it made the filtering a lot easier. Yeah, for
mhm.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
This was cool. This was a cool little chit chat. I
So
like
appreciate
this.
everyone. Such great things to say.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure I didn't miss any.
Mm, yeah, I appreciate you all, everybody. Don't forget, like I know we'll jump off here in a moment here, but this isn't the end. We remember you have people. There are spaces held, even if you're not in them. Like for example, we have Uvi Community where people, this is the work that we do. We continue to come together and have these conversations, and you know, some people are getting one-to-one support and coursework and whatnot. There are things, but even if that's not accessible to you right now, or if that's not something that you're ready for, I find it just helps to know that there are people out there doing work and that there are
Mm,
spaces held. So I hope that you know that. you know that you are a resource, and when you need those resources, they're there. I hope that you get that feeling today. Just that reassurance and that remembering of like, oh yeah, okay, there's a ton of us. There's a ton of us in this together. When I'm working on my own and feeling isolated, that's not at all a reflection of what the reality is. We are all working together. We're all in it together for sure. Yeah. So if nothing else, I hope you just have that sense, that feeling of being held, because there are spaces that are for this, that are we're holding that space continually for those in community and that are not directly in the community. This is why we do it. Thank you, Stacey.
Clarinda, thank you so much. Thank you to your ancestors, and thank you to you and your wisdom, and just having this,
And to yours.
your space and your deep compassion, and just being a North Star for me. I deeply
Thank
appreciate you.
Oh my gosh. It's mutual. Yeah, you took me places today that I didn't expect to go. So I like to be surprised.
I'm always doing
That's
that to
really cool.
myself too. Look at me, I'm like all teary. Gee.
I love that. I love that. Love you, Stacey. Thank you so much. I really
Me too.
appreciate
Thank you all
this.
so much for listening and contributing. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out super long too. I will get the recording and transcription out to everybody. Yeah, the work
Awesome.
continues. We'll continue to connect.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, bye.